Okay, good morning, everyone. So I'm going to do a little talk this morning just about the big picture of meditation and just really the core of what it is we're actually doing here. I'm just going to wait. There's a few people still trickling in here. Okay, I think I'll get started. So, yeah, I'm going to I'm just going to see what kind of comes through here, but I'm really, what I plan on doing is as we go into the next the next meditation practice, we're going to start to work with the hindrances. Some people have already been reaching out, mentioning some of the challenges that have been coming up in their practice. Pain in the body, discomfort, tiredness, busy mind, all of that. And we're going to start to really understand the mechanism of what's happening in the meditation. Because all of these things that we label as hindrances, it's like there's this feeling like this shouldn't be happening. I shouldn't be feeling pain. I shouldn't be, having this busy mind. And, that resistance to what is actually unfolding, that is the egoic mind. The little ego is nothing but resistance to what is. So whenever we resist anything that's coming up, what's coming up a lot of the times, it is this accumulated habit pattern of resisting. The pain, the samskaras, it's just resistance that's held in the body. So we have this tendency in meditation because of this egoic consciousness. We resist the resistance, and that just creates more resistance. So what I really want to do is start to explore how this mechanism really works. And so I'm just going to dive in. So, to me, the meditation, awakening from this character that we're playing, we come to a way of being where we're just directly experiencing what is. This is really what meditation leads to. It's just being here now, not mediated by that conditioned self. So not filtered by, you could say, that reducing valve of the mind. That reducing valve is the I thought, the character, the little ego. So this process of meditation and self-inquiry is coming to the true I, the true self. But first we have to see the workings of the false I. We have to make all of that conscious, because we've become so habituated to focusing on the thoughts, what's happening in the mind. When we're born into this world, children are taught right from the beginning to start to tune in to this so-called external world. When a baby is in its crib, the parents put a mobile there. It's like this object to look at. There's this show that's going on, and when we're very young, we start to tune into these images, thoughts, and perceptions. And this is just like Plato's cave analogy. In the cave analogy, there are these people who are living in this cave, and they're fixated on the shadows on the cave wall. Behind them there's a light, projecting these shadows on the wall, and their whole world is focused on these shadows. So for us, the analogy is, the attention of the mind goes towards sensations arising on the body. The attention goes to the perception of things, and then we develop preferences towards those things. So in Buddhism, this is the 5 skandhas, the 5 aggregates of mind. So there's this sense that there's a body, this is rupa, form. On that body, there's the raw sensation, vedana, the 2nd skandha. Sensation is arising. And then the 3rd skandha is sanya, the perception of things. There's this repeated memory, labeling, language, all of that. So we perceive things. And then the 4th skandha is the samskaras, and we've already talked about that a little bit. These are our patterns of preference, craving, and aversion. So we perceive these things, and then we have opinions about those things. We have preferences towards them. We want or we don't want. And then the 5th skandha is vijnana, this witnessing faculty of the mind. There's a part of the mind that observes or witnesses all of this changing phenomena. It observes the sensations, perceptions, preferences. And we can simplify it. The first 4 skandhas are just the field of changing phenomena. That's all they are. This is Maya. This is, the field of change. And the 5th skandha is the witness. And it's actually still part of Maya. That witness, that separation, the witness and witnessed arise as one, and this is duality. This is the yin and yang of the world. This is the whole mind, the self-structure. So if you think about, let's take an example of a child, who's developing. A young child. We put the child in our society in school. So let's say we have a child in a classroom, and the child is being taught something. They're being, say it's a math class. The child is sitting there in their desk, and the teacher's teaching, outside the window, there's a squirrel playing. It's running around and that the child will naturally be drawn to that squirrel. And when we're little kids, the teachers, they want us to pay attention to what they're teaching. The child wants to look at the squirrel in the yard. And the teacher is just focused on their, math class. They're not aware of what's happening in the natural world out there. They're just in their mind. So the mechanism, the principle in play here is this yin yang, this duality. In Taoism they say energy follows consciousness, or qi follows consciousness, and consciousness follows qi. So this is the mechanism. This is the play, the dance of duality. Sometimes in modern, meditation teachings, they say, where attention goes, energy flows. Where energy flows, attention goes. So it's this dance. So, so there's, with the little kid example, there's an aliveness in that squirrel. They feel there's an energy there, so that attention is naturally drawn to that. And maybe they don't feel that energy in the math lesson that's happening. So they're drawn to where that energy is. And everything is like that, so we, in our society, we're the child very quickly learns that they get in trouble if they don't pay attention, so they're not following the natural flow of their energy. The teacher will say, you've got to pay attention, you've got to learn this. This is where attention has to go. And so, this ego, this little self, it tries to please the teacher. It learns, I'm going to get in trouble if I don't do this. So we suppress, we cut off that natural flow, and we start to cultivate this persona, this way of being, where we're filtering through these inherited concepts of right and wrong, or what I should be doing. And this is at the root of the false I, the false self. We start to live through this cultivated network of preferences and learned habit patterns, and we become habituated to this game. So this is the world of thought. This is like those shadows on Plato's cave. In that analogy, the people in the cave they're told that there's this world outside of the cave. But to realize it, to realize what's outside of the cave, they have to give up their fixation with that world of shadows. So we have to, unhook from these 5 skandhas, stop giving attention to the preferences of the ego, stop giving attention to things. So when we stop, when we stop giving attention to those things, that principle, qi follows consciousness, that mechanism loses its power. The skandhas only have power because we're giving attention to it. And it's a very, very simple principle, but we're so in it that it isn't always obvious. If I put attention on my hand right now, I feel an aliveness in the hand. A moment ago, there wasn't a consciousness of what was happening in the hand, but now I put the attention on it, and you can maybe feel a tingling, maybe there's a sweating in the hand, whatever's happening. So you feel the energy there, you feel the aliveness that's there just by bringing attention to that place. So this is the game. The mind, is moving here and there. It's like a camera. It can this vijnana, the fifth skandha, this part of the mind that observes, the witnessing part of the mind. It's like a camera. It can choose to be here or there, this or that. It can choose to focus narrowly. It can choose a wide focus. It's very much like a camera. So all of these operations of the mind, including that camera, this is the self-structure. And meditation is to realize who you are. Meditation and self-inquiry are both about realizing who you are beyond all of that, beyond that conditioning. To realize that entire mechanism, all five skandhas, to be empty of self. To be empty of self. So what happens when you stop playing that game? What happens when you stop moving attention here and there? Be still and know. It's the great teaching. Be still and wake up. Be still and directly know the awareness that is here now. So when that awareness, when we're just here, we're just aware, what happens to that whole mechanism, of energy following that, that witnessing consciousness. That energy becomes free. When we give up, giving attention to things, to our preferences, the pains arising in the body, all of these so-called hindrances that are arising. When we just abide as that awareness, that energy becomes free. The body fills with energy. When we really awaken, it's as if there is no more body. There's just this energy, this ocean of energy, or prana, whatever you want to call it, aliveness. The yogis call it Satchitananda. Satchitananda. So it's a beautiful Sanskrit word. So Sat is truth. Chit is consciousness or mind, and Ananda is bliss. So when we recognize the truth of this awareness, of the truth of what we are, it's bliss, and this is bliss that is not caused by anything. It's not brought about through the five skandhas. It's not a pleasure. The skandhas are, this craving and aversion, going after the objects or the goals or the things in this matrix of the mind. It's this endless samsara, this endless cycle of grasping, craving, and aversion. But when we let go of all of that, just letting everything be exactly as it is, it's so backwards to what we've learned. In everything we've learned in life, in the world, we learn to go after happiness. We learn to go after comfort and stability and all of these conditional things in the matrix. So right from being that little kid, we learn that game. But what happens when we give up that game? There's this awareness that is ever present. When we abide as that awareness, the energy, is so far beyond any sort of temporary pleasure that we can get from this whole worldly mechanism. So when you realize that, that awareness itself is true fulfillment, true bliss, true peace, then you really start to love awareness, and all the religions, it's funny how things have gotten mixed up in religion and Christianity and some of these different traditions. This awareness, it's at the root of all of the religions, all the great true spiritual teachings. Even in Christianity, even in the Old Testament, there's the the story of Moses, and he goes up on the mountain, and God reveals his name, to Moses, and says, "I am the I am. I am the I am." And in these old traditions, in Kabbalah, the Tetragrammaton, the name of God, it's always I am. It's this pure awareness that's just here. Before Abraham was, I am. So when you start to love awareness, when you really get that awareness is liberation, you start to love God, because that is God. That's always been the name of God. But we've objectified this concept of God. It's like it's something outside of us, but it's actually our own fundamental awareness. So, this love of awareness, loving awareness, loving God, it's one and the same. There's a parable, a lot of different teachers have used this parable, and I think Eckhart Tolle uses this in The Power of Now, and there's the parable of the beggar, and he's begging for money, while he sits on a chest full of gold. He never bothers to look in the chest. He just keeps on begging. And that's like us. If we look to the world of form for temporary pleasures, it pales in comparison to the bliss of pure being. So the question, that comes up is, like how do we realize it? The mind asks how. And it seems that there are two paths. And this is kind of a mysterious thing. But if you look at the spiritual world, there are really two paths, and sometimes these paths are called the direct path. So the path of direct inquiry, or the developmental path, or the progressive path, the path that sort of unfolds through time. So we can just simply be here now. And some of the amazing teachers that are out there, like Rupert Spira is a perfect example of a direct path teacher. He just relentlessly teaches the direct path, and he's just pointing to the awareness that is here now. And this is very, very simple, but not everyone seems to get that or be ready for that. And even in Buddhism, the Buddha realized this. The Buddha was an amazing teacher because he taught at all different levels, wherever people were on their path. He had different teachings for people who were at different stages. Ramana Ramana Maharshi would say, some people are like, really dry kindling it's ready to ignite with the truth. Whereas other people, they're more like wet wood, and they need some time to dry out. So however you want to say it, the Buddha, he would sometimes give these direct pointers, and there's a famous flower sermon that he gave, which it's really kind of the very first Zen teaching. He just got in front of a group of students, and he just held up a white flower, and that was it. Just holding up the white flower, and the stillness, of that flower, the presence of that flower, said everything. That's it. It's just beingness, direct. But the problem with that is only one person out of the whole group got it. There was one guy who in that teaching got it. So some people are ready for that which is conveyed in stillness, the direct pointing. And then sometimes, it seems that intermediary steps are needed. Even these direct path teachers, I teach direct path as well, and I was only really ready for it at a certain point in my journey. I did a lot of Vipassana meditation and technique-based meditation for many, many years. So it seems for some people, intermediary steps may be needed. And I say it seems because awareness is always already here. So really, we're just playing in the illusion when we work with techniques. But somehow these these techniques that the character learns seem to loosen the bonds. They loosen the knots. So when we use any technique, we're turning away from perceptions, preferences. We're focusing on some meditation object, like the breath, or the third eye. And then eventually, if we focus on our meditation object long enough, eventually there's a merging. So this witnessing part of the mind and what is witnessed become one. And it doesn't matter what the meditation object is. It really, really doesn't matter. It seems that the best meditation objects, they're usually the like the breath or energy in the body. But really, they all take us to this field of energy, the pranic field. And this is the intermediary. Sometimes I say breath is the bridge, or energy is the bridge, prana is the bridge. So it doesn't really matter what the meditation object is. It'll take you into the pranic field. So it could be doing a chant, like the Om chant. If you do it long enough, you become the Om. If you observe the breath long enough, you become the breath. The witness and the witnessed become one. You observe the energy in the body, you become that. There's just this alive consciousness, and this these techniques that lead to this merging. This is called Savikalpa Samadhi. So this is a temporary samadhi. This is always a state. But it can be hugely beneficial on the path. It's when we experience it, they're peak human experiences, beautiful experiences, and it can really shift us onto our path. But anything that is gained through a technique, through some doing, is always impermanent. It's always just a temporary state, an energetic state. So it's a stepping stone. Can be useful, but what we really want to come to, what we really want to investigate, is there's this whole continuum of changing phenomena. On one end of the continuum, you have this union, this beautiful samadhi experience. The other end of the continuum, you have total identification with the character. So heaven and hell is this continuum. But who is the one that experiences that entire continuum? What is that awareness that is ever present? And it's when we wake up to that, when we directly experience that awareness, we become free of the entire continuum. The energy becomes free. So even that continuum, these states that we experience in meditation and self-inquiry, the states are not it. They're stepping stones. They may be an indication, that energy is becoming free. It's moving to different levels. But anything that is impermanent is not it. We want to keep going until we reach the truth of who we are. The one that doesn't come and go, the one that is ever present. Even in deep sleep, when we really awaken, when Turiya is happening or present, this awareness is recognized to be ever present, and life happens. Life and death are arising within this primordial awareness. And this Turiya, it just happens. We can't make it happen. It's just the byproduct of doing all of this continuous inquiry. So the main knots, that seem to bind the sense of I to the false self. There are two main knots, or two main sort of obstacles or things within Maya. So the body is always looking for comfort, and the mind always wants to know. The body wants comfort, and the mind wants to know. So the craving and aversion, within the body, and the knowing mind, it's also a controlling mind. When the mind thinks it knows, it believes it's in control. This is the little ego. So we give up our preferences. We give up our preferences towards things, when we're meditating, and that mechanism starts to lose its power. These knots start to unbind. The energy becomes free. So meditation, in the meditation, we have the concentration, dharana, we have dhyana or jhana. The jhanas in Buddhism it's the same word, it's just the Pali word for dhyana in the yogic tradition. So dhyana or jhana is just meditative absorption, which is the freeing of this energy. When we stop giving attention to our preferences. So there's this freeing of energy, and when the energy becomes free, there's a change in consciousness. So, in Buddhism, they have, these different jhanas, different levels of meditative absorption. So I'm not going to go into that, but because we don't need to know conceptually. We need to just be with our meditation object, and it will naturally unfold. But with each level, there's, a part of the mind that drops off. There's a freeing of energy, and then there's a change in consciousness. It feels like, I'm more here, more awake, more alive. And one thing I'd like to mention is, when this starts to happen in meditation practice, this energy starts to become free. Some of you may be familiar with Kriya Yoga. They talk about this, where, the energy might start to kind of take over. It might start to move the body. So kriyas are these spontaneous movements. Not everybody experiences this in, meditation. It might just be, sometimes there can be a little movement of energy that starts to take over. It might be very subtle, just a feeling of energy moving, or, for some people, it can be more dramatic, there can be actual, almost like yoga postures that, Sometimes I've had people in meditation retreats where they're sort of moved into different positions when this energy becomes free, and it's almost like there's an intelligence to it. There is an intelligence to it. It's like a rewiring starts to happen when the body is moved into different positions, or mudras. Things can happen. Even it's interesting, even with plant medicines, when people go into these states of absorption, these mudras can come. It's kind of mysterious, spontaneous sounds as we let go of control. And the beauty of doing a retreat like this online is you don't have to worry about other people seeing or hearing what's happening. So you can be muted or turn off your video if you're going through something. And it's interesting. So these kriyas that start to come, or energy movements, they it can also the mind can get involved with it as well. When something like that is happening, it's a beautiful time to really inquire. Is there a sense that I am doing this? Am I moving the body? Who's moving the body? Am I separate from that energy? And when we do self-inquiry, when this is happening, when these kriyas are arising, quite often they won't hang around very long. Usually that energy will integrate. So if this continues for a long period of time, usually the mind is involved in some way. It thinks, okay, yeah, the kriyas are happening. This is awesome. I'm gonna, I'm doing something here, and it can kind of get involved with it. So really, if this starts to happen in your practice, it's a beautiful opportunity. Really inquire, who is moving. On my own journey, I didn't get many kriyas, but now the energy just flows. It's like the energy is just circulating freely. These different teachers like Yogananda and Swami Kripalu, they taught these different different Kriya Yoga techniques. So this is a beautiful way to really start to work with the energy. And so this really comes when we stop feeding the egoic habit pattern. And I have a teaching that I always love to do this teaching that comes from the Zen tradition, sometimes called the Faith Mind poem or the Great Way. It really cuts to the heart of what it is we're doing here. It's about preferences. It's about the really being okay with what is in our practice. It's just seeing the egoic preferences and this habit pattern of the mind is the whole game. It's the whole package. This is really the core. So I love this teaching. So it comes from a teacher named Sozen. It's from the Chan Buddhist tradition, which is it's kind of like the Chinese version of Zen. So this is about 15 minutes long. I'm just going to read it, and then we'll go directly into our meditation from there. So I'm not going to say anything else. You can either take a little break if you need a washroom break, come back and sit, or we can go directly into our practice after this. The great way is not difficult for those who have no preferences. When love and hate are both absent, everything becomes clear and undisguised. Make the smallest distinction, however, and heaven and earth are set infinitely apart. If you wish to see the truth, then hold no opinions for or against anything. To set what you like against what you dislike is the disease of the mind. When the deep meaning of things is not understood, the mind's essence and essential peace is disturbed to no avail. The way is perfect, like vast space, where nothing is lacking and nothing is in excess. Indeed, it is due to our choosing to accept or reject that we do not see the true nature of things. Live neither in the entanglements of outer things, nor in inner feelings of emptiness. Be serene in the oneness of things, and such erroneous views will disappear by themselves. When you try to stop activity to achieve passivity, your very effort fills you with activity. As long as you remain in one extreme or the other, you will never know oneness. Those who do not live in the single way fail in both activity and passivity, assertion and denial. To deny the reality of things is to miss their reality. To assert the emptiness of things is to miss their reality. The more you talk and think about it, the further astray you wander from the truth. Stop talking and thinking, and there is nothing you will not be able to know. To return to the root is to find the meaning, but to pursue appearances is to miss the source. At the moment of inner enlightenment, there is a going beyond appearance and emptiness. The changes that appear to occur in the empty world we call real only because of our ignorance. Do not search for the truth. Only cease to cherish opinions. Do not remain in the dualistic state. Avoid such pursuits carefully. If there is even a trace of this and that, of right and wrong, the mind essence will be lost in confusion. Although all dualities come from the one, do not be attached even to this one. When the mind exists, undisturbed in the way, nothing in the world can offend. And when a thing can no longer offend, it ceases to exist in the old way. When no discriminating thoughts arise, the old mind ceases to exist. When thought objects vanish, the thinking subject vanishes. As when the mind vanishes, objects vanish. Things are objects because of the subject. The mind is such because of things. understand the relativity of these two and the basic reality, the unity of emptiness. In this emptiness, the two are indistinguishable, and each contains in itself the whole world. If you do not discriminate between coarse and fine, you will not be tempted to prejudice and opinion. To live in the great way is neither easy nor difficult, but those with limited views are fearful and irresolute. The faster they hurry, the slower they go, and their clinging cannot be limited. Even to be attached to the idea of enlightenment is to go astray. Just let things be in their own way, and there will be neither coming nor going. Obey the nature of things, and you will walk freely and undisturbed. When thought is in bondage, the truth is hidden, for everything is murky and unclear, and the burdensome practice of judging brings annoyance and weariness. What benefit can be derived from distinctions and separations? If you wish to move in the one way, do not dislike even the world of senses and ideas. Indeed, to accept them fully is identical with true enlightenment. The wise person strives towards no goals, but the foolish person fetters themselves. There is one Dharma, not many. Distinctions arise from the clinging needs of the ignorant. To seek mind with the discriminating mind is the greatest of all mistakes. And I'm going to clarify that. So to seek mind with a capital M, so to seek the true self with the discriminating mind, or with the little ego, with the thinking mind, is the greatest of all mistakes. Rest and unrest derive from illusion. With enlightenment, there is no liking and disliking. All dualities come from ignorant inference. They are like dreams or flowers in the air, foolish to try and grasp them. Gain and loss, right and wrong, such thoughts must be finally abolished at once. If the eye never sleeps, all dreams will naturally cease. If the mind makes no distinctions, the 10,000 things are as they are, of single essence. To understand the mystery of this one essence is to be released from all entanglements. When all things are seen equally, the timeless self-essence is reached. No comparisons or analogies are possible in this causeless, relationless state. Consider movement stationary and the stationary in motion, and both movement and rest disappear. When such dualities cease to exist, oneness itself cannot exist. To this ultimate finality, no law or description applies. For the unified mind, in accord with the way, all self-centered striving ceases. Doubts and irresolutions vanish, and life in beginner's mind is possible. With a single stroke, we are freed from bondage. Nothing clings to us, and we hold to nothing. All is empty, clear, self-illuminating, with no exertion of the mind's power. Here, thought, feeling, knowledge, and imagination are of no value. In this world of suchness, there is neither self nor other than self. To come directly into harmony with this reality, simply say when doubt arises, not to. In this not to, nothing is separate, nothing is excluded. No matter when or where, enlightenment means entering this truth. And this truth is beyond extension or diminution in time and space. In it, a single thought is 10,000 years. Emptiness here, emptiness there, but the infinite universe stands always before your eyes. Infinitely large, infinitely small, no difference. For definitions have vanished, and no boundaries are seen. So too with being and non-being. Don't waste time in doubts and arguments that have nothing to do with this. One thing, all things move among and intermingle without distinction. To live in this direct realization is to be without anxiety about non-perfection. To live in this faith, or this beginner's mind, is the road to non-duality, because the non-dual is one with the trusting mind. Words, the way is beyond language, for in it there is no yesterday, no tomorrow, no today.